You're listening to the ROMA MICLAT podcast.
Thank you for joining us and welcome to another episode of Adulting 101 brought to you by the ROMA MICLAT podcast. And our episode today is all about home. And I have Miss Regina Viola Cello, and she's a freelance licensed interior designer and interior design professor at the DLS-CSB College of St. Benilde. Welcome to the podcast show, Reg.
Hi everyone who's watching.
Kamusta? Are you nervous?
Yeah, I would lie if I say that I'm really up and confident to do this, but there.
Don't be. This is gonna be fun and relaxed convo lang. And I just have it's just that I have a lot of questions when it comes to home, house decoration. And as I mentioned, Adulting 101 is dedicated. The episodes here are dedicated for all the things that we need to understand as adults. But like, for example, house. I want to have a house. Pangarap ng lahat yan. Gusto ko magkaroon ng sariling bahay. The problem is, pag nandun ka na sa stage na yon, you only realize na, oh my gosh, ang dami kong hindi alam. Or, wala akong alam at all.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
this discussion was actually, this kicked off because mag-share na ako for our home. We had our house like 20, 30 years ago. And then, when we decided to paayos yung electric rewiring, nagulat kami. Ang mahal pala ng rewiring.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
60,000 pa and above. And I didn't know that. Ilang taon na akong may asawa, I didn't know that. So that's why, sabi ko, why don't I have an episode about house, home decorations? So let me start with my question, Reg. What are the basic things that we must consider or know kapag nagpapagawa ka ng bahay? At least, paano naman pag nakausap mo yung contractor mo or kung kanino ka man magpapagawa ng bahay, medyo may alam ka na so that to guide our listeners.
One of the most basic things that you should know, and I'm pretty sure you already know this as a basic when you approach a contractor, or even with the intent of having someone design or have someone build a house for you, is that you have a budget for it. Except, of course, if when you approach someone, you would just have the intention of asking for how much it's going to cost, especially if it's like a ground up house, meaning it's not a condo. Kasi a condo, medyo alam mo na yung rough estimate of how much that's gonna cost without any of the finishing that you like, just the basic things that's already in there. Alam mo na yun yung amount of how much that's going to be costing. But for a residence, you need to have like a property already. And also with your property, you cannot have like an idea of syempre gusto mo minsan, especially if it's a small house, gusto mo sagarin yung property. And this is also a mistake when you're approaching a contractor and your contractor just suddenly, or your architect suddenly just gives you a plan without consulting the administration of your village or subdivision. Sometimes, especially if it's a high-end subdivision or village, you have to consider and ask the administration of that subdivision whether they have requirements or restrictions. Because sometimes they don't allow firewalls, meaning ayaw nila ng sagad sa property line mo. Because when you make sagad dun sa property line mo, when you maximize on your lot and yung walls mo is reaches to the yung mga boundary of your property, that would mean you would have to have a firewall. Meaning, meron yung, alam mo yung kind of ugly looking straight wall that has no windows because it's not allowed to have in firewalls. Sometimes, some subdivisions doesn't like that. So, especially high-end subdivisions, you don't normally see na nagpa-firewall. Like, go to Ayala Labang, you don't see firewalls there. So you can't do that. So yung mga ganon, that's a big deal when you already have a floor plan and you're already good to go, and then your subdivision will say, no, that's not allowed. You should have asked us. And that's, for me, if you are going to be approaching a contractor or an architect, that is one of the most basic things that he or she should have asked first from the subdivision. Otherwise, if he also made that mistake, that's actually a very kind of a red
Newbie.
flag. Yeah, it's a
Newbie
red
mistake.
flag. Yeah, it's a newbie mistake.
Can we say that we can give at least like maybe a ballpark figure kung ano yung makatotohanang budget
Okay.
for, let's say, a family of 4. Sabihin natin may 2 anak, ganyan. Tapos you
Okay.
live in the city. Ano yung makatotohanang budget na hindi naman masyadong high-end, yung saktong average lang. Let's say an average earning tatay, sabihin natin, na gustong magpagawa ng bahay. What do you think, or is there a ballpark figure na pwede natin ibigay na, ito yung dapat na realistic talaga na starting budget mo? Kasi
Okay.
minsan, di ba, we have to set the expectations then straight. Kasi not because you have, let's say, totoo to not because you have 100,000 or 150,000, it means to say that you can have a house. Diba? I think hindi masyadong realistic yun eh. Renovation pwede pa, pero yung sa bahay talaga, di ba?
Yeah, even with renovation, that's depending on the renovation. That's really medyo questionable amount. But anyway, that would of course depend on, like, if CR lang naman, then of course that's doable.
Oh my God, 150 CR?
Don't get me started on that. Kaya naman, syempre, it depends talaga kasi if I'm going to be coming from an interior designer's perspective. In interior finishing, that is actually where in a construction of a house, that is where all the price differences range. Not really sa structure, sa core, sa shell of the house, meaning yung from engineering to the architectural form of the house. That's a lot more that's a lot more predictable, to be honest. But when it comes to finishing, that is where all the difference and range is going to really be significant, because there is a tile that can range from 100 pesos for a 60 by 60, let's say that's 2 feet by 2 feet. That can range from 100 pesos. Sometimes you can even find it in your local hardware for like a discounted price of less than 100 pesos. But then there are those that can range up to 300 to 500 pesos. And that's a big difference, especially if you're going to take into consideration how much of those tiles are you going to be using for even sa banyo lang. If you have a big bathroom and you're intending to use those amounts of tiles, and even yung 60 by 60, that's even medyo malaki yun. There are 30 by 60 na tiles that are really that expensive, sometimes even ranging on 1,000 plus pesos. It's Italian tiles, yeah. So really, kapag ganun na, from 100 pesos to 1,000 pesos, that's a huge difference.
Yeah. It's times 10.
Yes.
So alam nyo na.
So it's really difficult to like set an expectation, and this is actually where I think a lot of people gets it wrong. Because let me just give you the realistic ballpark figure of hindi siya pwedeng I can't really say an amount like 1 million pesos, or because it would depend on the size of your house. That's the main thing there. So let me give you a ballpark figure of how much it's probably going to cost per square meter, so that you do the math.
Okay, yes, that's better.
Yes.
Yes.
The math. So way back, kaya pa ng like, mga...
Gano'n yung way back na yan, Reg?
A decade ago. When
a decade, 10 years ago.
Yeah, when I started doing construction, kaya pa ng mga around, for a bungalow, kaya pa ng 10,000 per square meter. Then it suddenly jumped to 15,000 per square meter for a bungalow. But then now, parang siguro mga 18 or something per square meter, that's for a bungalow. But if you are talking about 2 floors and up, that is going to be ranging from 20,000 pesos above. Of course, that's kind of nasa ano pa yon, low to medium range.
Hindi pa yun yung talagang masasabi mong maganda.
Not really. Medyo ano yon, architectural finishing, meaning paint, tiles is medyo nandun siya sa range ng mga 100 pesos. That is the realistic thing I could tell you. Kasi the problem that people get when they want to have a house and they have this high expectation that they have, for example, like 3 million, but their house is like super big. 3 million will not get you far.
Yes. I-compare mo, if you will just compare it to the price of the mga condo ngayon.
Exactly.
90 square meters is like what? 3.5 to 5 million? So imagine mo na lang kung talagang ganito ka lang kamahal yung 19 square meters lang.
Exactly. Even with a condo, that's like, one bedroom in the studio type can cost you 1 million, and that's actually kind of cheap already nowadays.
Yes.
Probably are not in a very good location. So that's realistically speaking, that's what you're expecting from 1 million of a price range.
All right. So yun yung ballpark figure. Ayan, realistically mga 18 to 25, mga ganon.
Actually, that's mid-range. So
mid-range.
The last 18,000 that I did was an apartment. So kind of not really a residential type of finishing. So it's more of mariwasa tiles. And I'm an interior designer. So medyo maayos naman siya because that's the conflict that I have as an interior designer and a contractor. I still need to have that touch of, of aesthetics inside. I can't help it. It's like built in. So, but let's just start with 20 na. Kasi 18,000 was years ago when I last did an 80,000 worth of an apartment. So, hindi na siya masyadong, I think, possible ngayon. If you're more of the type that wants to splurge a little, this is a little let's say mga 25 to 35,000.
Okay, so 25. Medyo may budget ka na nun.
Budget ka na nun.
Medyo nakaka-LL na itabi yung mga ilang pantat Christmas bonus, ganyan.
Yeah. If you're really the medyo luxurious type, and that's the reason sometimes like you really intend to get an interior designer and you have all the capacity to buy all the expensive Italian tiles or all the granite or stones that you wish to put inside your house, then kind of make it above that pa. 35 is like a safe price pa for you. Probably more than that, especially that we're just talking about finishing. Of course, it's different pa when it comes to furniture, appliances that you're gonna put inside. So yon.
Yung mga ini-install, right? Like the gas range.
Exactly. So those are built in. And those things also have to be taken into consideration and specified when you are intending to have a house built, because you don't want extra work for having, ang intention nyo pala is naka-built in, then gawa na yung kitchen, and that's actually where all the dobleng trabaho comes in, all the extra expenses comes in. And that is also the reason why, if you are going to be asking me, okay, this is probably another one of your questions, but
yes, you're going to that direction.
The most ideal setup for me as an interior designer, as a contractor, and I think I would have to speak for all the professionals that are working in the construction of a house when I say that it would be best if, for example, you as a client are intending to get an interior designer anyway, to get an architect anyway, to all talk to them and arrange a meeting before actually doing the house. Meaning we have to sit down and talk together what your intentions are, so that we don't have to repeat the same thing and do yung mga unnecessary extra work for, demolition of knocking down walls, knocking down already existing counters or something or stuff like that, and that's extra cost for you. So that is actually the significance of talking to all these professionals, that you get to discuss it, talk about it, sit down on it, be firm na kung ano na talaga yung gusto mo mangyari before you proceed with the rest of the construction, because construction is where yun yung sana, you know that saying, measure twice, cut once. That is what we're trying to do before we start construction, that we're measuring already everything, we're laying it out and floor plan and everything with all the plans that you want before we can actually start the construction. Of course, it's gonna sound like you are parang paying so much more because you are already paying for interior designer where you don't need them yet, because of course then the common notion is that you get interior designer when the house is about to be done. And that's actually very common for us, that our services are usually availed of when the construction is about to be done, just to realize that there are so many things that we are going to be changing because you got interior designer. Especially if you are getting mga more famous or yung medyo meron na silang name in the industry in interior designers, they're not the type to, parang, I'm not saying that this goes for everyone.
They don't compromise.
Yeah, exactly. Not the type to compromise. I mean, they are famous because, they have reached that state that, you have to trust their design taste and their decisions in all those in all interior design related stuff. So it's kind of hard to
But I also have a question, Reg, because you mentioned earlier na dapat the architect, the engineer, and the interior designer should be consulted all together.
Yes.
But is it possible to just get RT? Or just, architect, engineer, wala nang ID. Ganon. I think kasi it's a common practice sa Pinoy, di ba? Di ba usually, sino ba pwede dyan? Kakilala, carpenter, they do it.
Exactly.
Diba?
I know. That's I actually came from a time that it's very fortunate of me that when I started practicing as an interior designer, there has already been I'm from the province, right? So from Batangas, from my province, when I started practicing here, I'm very fortunate that I was in that transition phase between accepting the difference between an architect and interior designer. And it used to be that I actually think I also witnessed that time that there was still a debate between an engineer and an architect. So because before, engineers are claiming that they can do architectural works.
Yes.
Yeah, and then of course, architects at the same time, sometimes, of course, they also claim that
they can do interior designer work. The interior designer, medyo late na lang sa akin na ano yan eh. I think around 2007, 2008 ko na siya talagang na-realize na, shocks, may ganitong work pala. That's, di ba, they have pa the interior decorator. What? You're deciding the curtains and the pillows and the stuff. Ganun lang eh. Kumbaga, yun yung tingin nila. Like, but now, there's a deeper appreciation of interior designers. Eh.
Yeah, exactly. The difference, of course, it's not to say that engineers cannot do design and then cannot do architectural works, because I'm pretty sure that they also have a subject or a curriculum that tackled architecture. And it's not to say that they can't. It's just that you really can detect that there is, because architecture is a mixture of the science and the art of it, and as compared to engineering, where it's just basically kind of not saying that there's no art in engineering, but that's more of the science of how everything is going to be built in such a way that everything is sturdy and everything can be, can last 20 years or so or more, because 20 years is actually the healthy lifetime of a house. But more than that, of course, is what's ideal. But then again, with regards to how the aesthetics and the science of it, and of course with regards to planning, yun talaga ang where architects come in. Kasi kita mo talaga yung difference when an architect plans and an engineer plans. An engineer, and I'm not saying that this is for all engineers, because I'm sure that there are engineers that already know how to do this. But engineers are more concerned with maximizing materials. some architects are also very this good that they also now consider how to maximize on materials. Example, if you design a place, you try to maximize on the sizes of readily available materials, like yung bakal, yung length of the bakal. And this is where engineers are really good at, to maximize materials. So even if hindi siya maganda, sometimes, I'm not saying this is for everyone, kahit hindi maganda yung spacing, as long as mas maximize yung materials mo doon, they're gonna stick with that. Unlike architects, now of course, because they have to balance the aesthetics, the planning, what's other than it's a standard, the standards, they also syempre consider the needs of the clients and, you know, the needs of spaces of the clients. And that is naman where we as interior designers are more specific about the needs of the client. Because sometimes, not ito naman ang difference between an architect and interior designer, because architects normally design the layout, the planning. We also, as interior designers, actually also do that. We also try to lay out all the needs of the client. But what makes us different naman is we go into the nitty-gritty details that not a lot of architects can be patient about. To be honest, it's not I'm not saying that architects are not patient. It's just that those nitty-gritty details are really what are being paid for, so that all the, even to the littlest fabric of, you know, the throw pillows, to the fabric of the couch, to the fabric of the curtains, to, you know, all those things, to the fabric of what you're going to be using for your bed, to the headboard of, you know, so that's just fabric. And then how about all the other things, accessories like curtain rods even, right? So all those little details are, to be honest, very tiring. Very tiring to canvas, very tiring to research on, very tiring to discuss and talk about and have your client choose. But those little things, like in any relationship, it's the little things that count. Right?
They matter. They really matter. Kapag parang isipin mo, parang, ano ba yan? Just decide already what color. It's like, no, it does not go to the overall theme of the, I don't know, the sala or the bedroom.
Exactly.
You just can't pick gold. It's like my husband. You just can't pick red. There are different types of red. There's cherry red. There's there's lipstick red. There's fire engine red. There's, you know, orange red. Kasi when you give him colors, that's red. Well, primary colors. I'm
not trying to stereotype, but this is very typical of men, and this is the reason why I'm saying that a lot of interior designers are women. That's not I'm not trying to stereotype or anything, because I have guy students and I love them equally. But they have to be patient, because clients can be like that. And I'm not saying that all of my clients are women with regards to interior design. There are men who's very, very, also very meticulous when it comes to details. And you'd be surprised. So
talagang detalyado.
Exactly. Yeah, even the way cabinets will bang on. We have to think about those things. We have to ask those things.
Yung pagbukas mo ng ganon, okay siya, pero pag isasarado mo na, parang umaalog na yung buong cabinet na parang, ano ba to? It's parang hindi siya smooth. So, so that's part of interior designer's job.
Yeah.
I see. Oh, ngayon ko lang nalaman yan.
All sounds like it's a very luxurious or a very pang social na
interior designer parang sounds mahal.
But we have to remember that actually one of the important responsibilities of us as interior designers is that we actually do research, especially if our client has special needs. So those things are actually what makes my profession at least worth it. Because if you consult a doctor to address a medical condition, we also are problem solvers, and we are also consulted with regards to conditions that are special like that. For example, if there's a sensitivity for your child that she's easily bruised, so we have to consider those things in an interior space, and that's the other part of our profession that nobody sees. They think that it's all about just aesthetics, and it's all about and it's all about just playing with, everyone can do it because you just have to have an eye. But we have to remember that there is this responsibility. That's why we have a license to do it. For example, let's just say if you're asked to design a penal system like a hulungan, like you cannot just design it in such a way that you, for example, the cafeteria, you cannot design it na malalapit sila sa isa't isa. Because apparently, based on research, people who are inside jails are more sensitive with their back. Meaning to say, they don't want it that someone is close to their back. They are more suspicious and they are more alert and they are more aggressive that way. So you have to space them like because they feel like somebody's going to be attacking them from their back, so they're more aware of their backs. And this is based from research. This is based from the law of proximity, from proxemics, from psychologists. So that's actually that's the other side of interior design that that nobody. Of course, kasi the only side of interior design that we see are those parang mga mansions and, baking things.
Kasi nga ayaw kayong kausapin kasi daw mahal kayo. Kaya ayaw, alam mo, parang kayong insurance agent, iniiwasan kayo ng tao. Diba?
But that's naman there is a study behind it that, of course, pagdating naman sa aesthetics, I don't mind if decorators do their thing, and everyone can have an eye for beauty, for aesthetics. Everyone can do it. You don't need to be a license to have an eye for beauty. But for example, yun nga, kahit yung bahay, there is a flow that every family adheres to. There is a movement that every family, every individual has that even they are not aware of. So that movement, in order to fully support whatever activity that you have as a family, whatever values that you want as a family, especially that in an interior space inside the home is where you spend majority of your time in, it has to be supportive of whatever activity it is that you want to do inside your house. So for example, if you also want to be living healthy, you can also design a space to support that intention, So
yes.
And those are the things that not every decorator can do. I'm not saying they can't, but not every decorator can do. But that's where interior designer as a science, as an art and a science comes into play. Recently, I just wanted to input this. Recently, there has been a lot of debate online about interior design, whether we are being a lot of slack about interior design. You don't need an interior designer to
Is it the James Deacon?
I'll
cut this off, pero I know that because I have a friend who's also an interior designer, and she shared the frustration because of it. Yeah, because I think he was endorsing a non-pro.
Yeah. And everyone in the interior design community was parang, but ako, this is an unpopular opinion. I'm just really that type of person that tries to understand where everyone is coming from. So because of the reputation of interior design that we are, when you're looking through Instagram and you're just sick of influencers and their perfect lifestyle.
Yes.
So parang, because I noticed with myself, because this is part of actually awareness that we're going to be talking about. I noticed with myself that I have been not really proud of it, but I'm getting drawn to watch videos of influencers getting exposed to live fake lives. And I'm like, why am I getting drawn to these videos? And I just realized self-assessment, of course, and self-awareness is people are getting sick of being lied to, of having to be exposed to that perfect life that is unattainable. So it frustrates you as a person that you cannot be on that level. And it's really, I think the reason why people are more drawn to more real people online, and that's the reason why a lot of people get rich online from just showing their day-to-day lives, is because people now are more drawn to real people instead of like influencers and their lofty lifestyles, right? And this is where I think interior designer is at. We kind of embody that influencer type that that promotes that. I don't want to say promote, but it feels like we are also in that place where everyone's like looking, we can't afford interior designer, you're up there, and would it mean our house can never look pretty if we're not going to get interior designer, if we can't afford and this, I actually get where they are coming from. To be honest, I get where they are coming from.
I think I think because also, yeah, you're right, usually the works of interior designers, kumbaga, they are showing it off through the houses of celebrities, influencers,
Exactly.
big personalities. But then you haven't seen, at least sa Pinoy setting ha. Kasi parang wala pa akong narinig na, okay, there's this show, we have an interior designer, but this is just an average house. Ayusin siya ng interior designer.
Exactly.
Diba? Wala pa kasing ganun eh. So, I invited you on the show because I'm curious na para ma-open din yung mind ng mga nanonood nito. I also want them to understand bakit kailangan mag-consult sa interior designer, bakit kailangan ng proper na tao na, alam mo yun, they really know what they do. If you really want to have your own home or you want magpagawa ng bahay.
And siguro kasi nagiging misconception is that interior designers are just there to beautify spaces.
Yes.
And
Oo.
that's the misconception kasi yun din, and I can't blame people because yun din yung pinapakita sa social media. That's what they're selling.
Sorry.
And it's true enough, it sells. It sells when you show that, interior designer designed this and it's so beautiful and it's so. But that's just the one side of interior design. Nobody has done a show where they're promoting how an interior designer solved a problem of a family, on how close they are, on their relationship. And I'm not saying, we're magicians and we can do that, but it can help. We can help, we can help with those things. And of course, especially now, I think now more than ever, you would notice that you can feel that interior space is actually affecting you now that we're all in quarantine and we're all inside our houses, stuck inside our houses. You can actually feel how your space inside your homes is very either supportive or destructive. Destructive. Is that a word?
Yes. Kumbaga parang nagkakainisan na kayo for some reason and na-realize mo parang, ang liit ng mundo natin lately, ha? Parang gano'n. Diba?
Especially now that everyone is trying to work from home.
Yes.
So, all the more that you notice how many sounds your house is producing, how much noise there is inside your home, so all these things you notice because you didn't pay attention before, because you didn't feel like it has any effect on you whatsoever. But now that we are all stuck inside our homes, all the more that we now feel that interior space is actually affecting how you work, how you go about a space, how you schedule your day. It actually affects a lot of things, and these things an interior designer should consider. Now, I'm not also saying that all interior designers do consider that, but that's also part of what we do, supposedly. That we research on what do you want as a person, as a family, what do you want to. There are ways to go about it, and that's through research, and that's where interior design is parang underplayed on. Hindi masyadong, kasi it's not glam and glamour. Walang masyadong doon. But that's the responsibility that we have. That this is actually what I'm trying to train my students and teach my students to become. Because here's the thing. I understand actually where the interior design community is coming from with that issue. Because it is threatening to us as interior designers. We took 4 years. It's not cheap to become an interior designer. We spent so much. Our parents spent so much for us to graduate those 4 years, take up the board exam, and then pass, and then have those experiences, fight with other interior designers, and to be in competition with a lot of competitors and designers and architects out there, apart from the unlicensed decorators and all these other people. Just for in the end to be undermined like that. So I actually understand where my co-interior designers are coming from. However, I also understand where
as clients side naman na may budget issue na parang okay, if I can achieve, di ba? Parang it's like ano lang DIY na, kaya ko naman I'll spend less, or I'll
Exactly.
get someone who will do it for me on a lesser price.
Exactly. And this is actually, so I understand also where they're coming from. But I guess for me, the response to that is not to demand for respect. This is an unpopular opinion, to be honest. But for me, the response to that is to change the culture of how we view interior designers. We are solution makers, so we are solution providers. I have full respect with people who wants to be an interior designer later on in their lives, and they want to pursue their passion, and they have an eye for it. Go, for all, just I'm full support of you pursuing your dream if that's what you want to do. But then, if it's just aesthetics that you want to improve, then go ahead. I don't mind. Everyone can be a decorator. Everyone can have an eye for aesthetics and design. When it comes to providing a solution, an actual solution for an actual problem of a person, a family that has special needs like that, you really have to consult someone who studied and who
A pro.
a pro for that. And that's the difference. So ako personally, if you want to go to a decorator who has an eye for it, then
Fine.
I don't
Yes.
mind.
It's your choice.
It's
Yes.
your choice. But if you are intending to have like a real solution for it, and this is actually also where the mentality kasi comes in. They don't think that an interior space has that much of an effect with regards to changing one's approach to life, to how they live their day-to-day lives. But this quarantine, I think, is actually one of the parang solid proof that whatever it is, how you approach your day-to-day life is also affected by how you set up your space. Like I'm sure, diba, earlier, you're trying to fix your space and stuff so that you
Yes,
can properly,
because there's a lot of kalat.
more properly, diba, mas sarap magtrabaho when everything is
Yes.
organized, everything has its place. And that's just one of the minor things that interior design can do. How do you make yourself more productive? Can interior design help with that? Yes, we can probably help you with that. And those are the things that, that are dismissed in our profession. Because yun nga, kasi with our culture, with the Instagram culture, people are looking at interior design to be just, they're paying extra.
Aesthetics. Yes.
Aesthetics, yeah, to have their houses look pretty. There is more than meets the eye.
Yes, oo. I think dapat talaga proper exposure and to educate the people that there's a lot more than what you see online, sa YouTube. What you don't know, sometimes it hurts you.
Exactly.
Diba?
So, I'm parang nasa middle ground ako dun. Sa akin, let's just try to as a professional myself, siguro my approach there is that we just have to educate people. And I understand that kumbaga, I'm sorry to put some parang I hope God forgives me. I'm gonna put a line that Jesus said, okay? Kindly forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing.
Yeah, for what they are saying. And
saying.
moving forward, you try to change the perspective or try to change yung ano ba yung alam nila, so that in the future mas malinawan sila, parang ganon. I think one of the major things then that's why it blew up is because the person who endorsed the license is actually may influence siya. He has a personality also. I think that's why nag-react yung yung community nyo. Diba?
Exactly. And I'm not siding on anyone at this point. I'm not siding on anyone. Of course, I've been in the interior design community. I understand actually what their response is, but I also understand where the other side is coming from. So sa akin, we just have to, in the spirit of understanding, we just have to look at it that they don't know any better, but also that from our part, we need to also change the culture. And it goes both ways. So we also have to educate properly and not parang create this into a war and a demand for respect, because you do not ask for respect kasi you
You
gain
gain it.
respect
Oo.
ka. So yun yung sa akin doon. That's my 2 cents to it, and it's not a very popular opinion, I'm pretty sure, but I don't mind if you don't cut it. This
Oo.
one.
And anyway, this show naman is I mean, it's a safe space.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are just exchanging our views, and our guest, Miss Reg, yun nga, sinabi naman niya, wala naman siyang pinapanigan. This is opinion niya to, and at the same time, very fair naman. You give weight to the community, at the same time you give weight to dun sa isang side din. So wala naman tayong pinapanigan. So we just want to make that clear also.
Yeah.
What can you recommend yung buffer for the budget? Because just like getting married, when you're preparing to get married, may budget ka, but most of the time, if not 100%, hindi naman natutupad ang budget. So can you recommend like a buffer for the budget na parang, oh sige, may ganito kang budget, but at least add at least 20%? Safe na ba yun? Hindi na ba sila kukulangin doon? Or dapat ba 50%? 150% ang i-prepare nila? Ganyan? Hindi sila magulat?
This would depend kasi. Okay. Of course, you always have to have a buffer. You always have to have a buffer because of unforeseen circumstances. You cannot have a fixed amount like this, especially if you know that you are the type of person who changes your mind a lot.
Yung madali kang mabudol, ganyan.
Yeah. If you're the type of person who changes your mind a lot, and you're the type of person who is kind of, you have to be honest with yourself. If you're kind of indecisive about things, then you have to have a more significant buffer for that. Okay? Except if you are the OC type of person that you just stick by your plan, you stick by your budget, then okay, you just need like around 10% buffer for that. Okay. But if you're not, then
sky's the limit ba?
it's really up to you. If you are the one who is intending to buy your own furniture, to buy your own mga appliances and stuff, then nasa iba pa dun sa budget mo for the house, yung budget mo for that. You cannot budget like 3 million, but that's for everything. You're forgetting, meron kang pillows, meron kang bed. Bed is very expensive, by the way.
Oo.
Yung palang mattress yun. How about pa yung bed frame? So those things you might have overlooked, and those things are actually very expensive as well. There are actually more unforeseen budget when it comes to renovation. So you think you're gonna make it cheaper, it's more tedious, it's more time consuming, and of course ito yung number 1 kong tip. If anyone wants to have a renovation inside their house, don't live in the house when you're having it renovated. It's going to trust my word for this. Of course, you would it's more expensive and stuff, but it's more labor intensive for the contractor because mangangapa sila sa'yo and you're more sensitive, you're seeing things getting broken, and those are actually part of those things. That's part of the job. If you want it done fast, then meron talaga mga sacrifices na ganun. Of course, you would want na mag-ingat sila, but they're going to repair everything else. Except you already told them na, okay, these are fragile, and these things
don't touch this,
don't touch this. So when they break it, of course they're gonna have to pay for it. And when you're living inside the house, it's just going to stress you out. It's going to stress the contractor, it's going to stress the people that's working there, and it's going to slow down everything. So in order to avoid all those things, try to not live inside the same house that you are having renovated, just for the duration of, especially during the dirty work. So medyo ka muna, rent out or something. It's just
which is another budget na naman yon, kasi syempre dalawa yung binabayaran mo, diba?
And yun pa, apart from that, you are going to be seeing that there are a lot of unexpected expenses when it comes to renovation. Kasi like what you said, yung hindi mo alam, yung kuryente nyo pala needs rewiring. So those things, especially if it's an old house and you intend to have more stuff come in, it's kind of subject now for rewiring, especially mga 20 years above na yung house mo. Or pwede na siyang subject for rewiring kasi you don't know what happened na. Baka may mga daga nang nagkumagat dun sa mga wirings.
May mga patay na connections. Oo.
Patay na connections and all those things. And those things actually cost money kasi mahirap higitin. That's mas
Yes.
mahirap siya for a worker. Kasi mas mahirap siyang bunutin mo lahat, hanapin mo kung nasaan yung mga connection, especially kapag wala ka ng as-built plans. Meaning yung floor plan that your architect is supposed to leave you with after the construction of your house, containing all the connections, all the electrical, where the plumbing goes, para in the future when pag nagka-problema or kapag nagkaroon ka ng renovation, alam nila kung ano yung titik-tikin nilang wall, na wala siyang tubo there kasi
baka may tamaan.
May tamaan kasi it would happen na nangyari na din talaga sa amin yun kasi walang as-built. So nangangapa kami kung saan ba natin bubutasan to, and lo and behold, when pagka-drill nung tao ko biglang nagbukas na tubig, di ba? So,
Doble gastos!
So yan, so, mga ganung type kasi walang, and parang confident pa yung owner na hindi dyan yun, hindi dyan. Okay, sige.
I will go back to my to other questions that I have for renovation. Pero ngayon, so ano yung uso when it comes to layout and interiors, at least for the last 5 years? Isa sa mga nauso yung minimalist, di ba? Yung mga like industrial type, like
actually,
yellow lights and all.
You're mentioning it already. Pero yun, that's
yun na ba? Tama.
That's actually it. Industrial because I think ang nag-introduce niyan or the mga Starbucks type of mga coffee shops,
ganyan.
Oo. So, naging thing siya na mga industrial type kasi it's cleaner, but that has actually been around since mga Japanese type, Zen type of So, sila yung mga mahilig sa concrete kasi. So, the Japanese have a flair for that. Sa atin, kaya natin ginawa siyang industrial is because meron siyang mga bakal and stuff. But before, what they do normally is to incorporate, to balance concrete with wood. And that's
yung contrast ng gray, black, and brown, I think.
Parang siguro it's the wabi-sabi type of They're also the one who introduced minimalism, which is also a thing. So wabi-sabi is actually just balancing the organic with the structural elements. So this definition is actually appreciating the imperfection of things. And I love that concept, the Japanese concept. Yun, another very popular pa is Scandinavia. Kasi parang it's actually the concept of hygge. It's a Danish word, or anyway, it's HYGGE.
Yuga. It's yuga, they say.
Yuga, sorry. It's yung concept of parang relaxed type of living. So, nagta-transform siya. Also, itong biophilic design. Biophilic design is very much a thing also nowadays, especially even in corporate settings. Biophilia is a term that basically means our innate appreciation or innate wanting to be with nature, or innate love of nature, and it's built into us that we don't know it. So that's the reason why every time we're stressed, every time na we're in our corporate jungle, in our concrete jungle of our offices 24/7 almost, I mean every day, and we're stressed, where do we normally want to go to escape?
Nature, beach, yes,
mountains. That's biophilia at its finest. So it's our love, our innate desire to be with nature, especially if we have secluded ourselves and we have separated ourselves for so long in nature. And that is also the reason why a lot of people nowadays, now that we're stuck inside our homes, are getting super fond of plants.
That's why the plantitos and the plantitas came out. So it's in the inner, everyone has an inner plantito, plantita. Ganun pala yun.
Exactly. That's the reason. Because that's the closest thing to nature that we can afford, especially if you're living in a condominium space and you can't see any trees, you can't see anything. That's the closest thing to nature that you can get. So as you know, that's to satisfy our craving to see nature that I understand actually where all the plantitos and plantitas are coming from. It's
Yes.
bound to happen. It's bound to happen. And I love it because I'm kind of a vegan. So
So you love plants also.
it's just a natural thing, I think, for us as human beings to want that, actually. So yun, I don't think, siguro out of all the styles, that is, of course, minimalism is also a good thing. But again, ang minimalism kasi is not just a style.
It's a way of life.
Way of life.
Yes.
So you cannot stick by minimalism. It has a certain discipline to it also. So you can't stick by, of course, a lot of people want to go minimalist and stuff. And I actually, I'm guilty of that as well. I want to...
Same. Yes. Hello, Maricondo. Sinong mga sumunod kay Ate Maricondo at nagtapon-tapon? O, kamusta na yung mga closet nyo? Busog ulit. Punong-puno ulit. Kasi di ba nagka-space?
Especially now that we're in quarantine, na parang everyone is addicted to online shopping.
Yes.
And, you know, that's parang siguro nagiging stress relief na ng iba yun, nagiging outlet nila for stress. And that's actually a sign
that it's not for you.
Not a very good sign that you are a minimalist. But I mean, the intention, the wanting can always be there, and that's go ahead and I'm not discouraging naman people from trying to be a minimalist. But again, you have to remember that minimalism is not just a style; it's a way of life.
It's not a fad. It's not an uso.
Yeah, you have to live by it.
Minimalism is actually part of the culture ng Japanese, ng French.
Yeah.
That's why it's easy for them to do it. But for us, na very high yung consumer, natin.
Yeah.
Diba?
And it's not just about that. We also value things more. We have sentimental value.
Yes. We put emotions to stuff
Exactly.
Diba?
Exactly.
Memories.
Exactly. But of course, I think it also has something to do with we kasi as a culture, as Filipinos, we didn't really grow up with, alam mo yun, with a parang well-to-do lifestyle.
Totoo.
So whenever we grab money, and this also has a lot to do with how our education was molded us into becoming future workers instead of future businessmen. So ang thinking natin is once we grab hold of money, we spend it on things that we were deprived of when we were younger.
True. That's so true. That's so true. Then with the minimalism, that's why it's also hard. Kasi hindi talaga part ng culture natin yun.
Exactly. So there, pagdating naman, interior design is actually the same.
If they go, let's say, okay, magpapagawa sila ng bahay, they want the type of minimalist / wabi-sabi / Scandinavian, will it cost them less? Compared to, let's say, yung iba na gusto talaga is like romantic style, with the aranya and kasi may mga ganung type of
exactly,
romantic taste when it comes to their house. So will it be like less costly if they go for that?
Here's the thing, it's supposed to be a little less, but then there are finishing in wabi-sabi type of minimalistic type of houses that they that mukhang cement type of finish.
Yes.
It's not cement, that's plaster, and that's a special type of finish. So hindi talaga siya, you're gonna think that that's cheaper, but that's a special skill that you have to avail of.
Kasi ang impression sa tao, semento lang yan, madaling gawin yan. Tapos after 1 month, ba't pumapangit na? Di ba? Ba't parang iba naman yung itsura ng pinagayahan natin? Kasi naman, balik na naman tayo, consult the professionals.
Exactly. Tapos yung mga, syempre, you're gonna be using, wood.
Yes.
Or for example, you're gonna be using wood. So those kinds of wood is kind of medyo treated highly, very dry. So medyo may konting gastos yun because wood is not it's not cheap. And also yung iba naman, they're investing on mga stone surfaces and stuff like that. And those stone surfaces also are kind of expensive. So again, it all depends on if you're the type of minimalist who really just wants to cut back on stuff and even the finishes, or you're the type of minimalist na parang who still wants it pretty.
You want to splurge. Yun nga eh, that's also the thing with minimalism. Just because you are a minimalist doesn't mean you don't have like money or hindi ka gumagastos. Because sometimes, or most of the time, the devil is in the details. Like, okay, this is just wood, but man, the wood is like super wow.
Exactly.
Diba? Ibang klase ng wood to na tipong hindi mo siya mahahanap anywhere. But in this country, yun yan, ini-import pa siya. Or it's an Italian wood, diba? It's Italian piece. So it's a very simple, parang wala kang makitang ibang appliance or ibang gamit. But when you see that, first, it's a conversational piece. Second, talagang makikita mong tignan mo pa lang, mahawakan mo pa lang, you know, it's something. Diba?
Exactly. And sometimes yung iba, talagang they have like big pieces and chunks of like solid stone shipped para lang magkaroon lang ng centerpiece doon sa house nila or in their garden or whatever. Pero sobrang laki niya kasi. So parang just to have that, but that's really
gonna cost you.
Yeah, that's gonna cost you. But that's, part of minimalism, part of a Japanese style actually to have stones.
Now, I want to go back to the renovation. Ang tanong ko, how often should we renovate? Like, kasi for us, like what I shared earlier, kung hindi pa malapit nang maubos yung saksakan na wala ng kuryente sa amin, hindi pa namin marirealize na, ay, kailangan na pala namin mag-revisit and we have to check the electrical wiring. So, how often should we check the pipes, the electrical wirings, and the other things na dapat ding chine-check?
Sometimes wear and tear din eh. So if halimbawa marami kayo sa house and talagang in full high traffic yung almost all of the things that's inside of you.
Parang boarding house gano'n.
And actually, if it's like a boarding house, medyo kailangan yan medyo yearly na check eh. Pero like sa house, mga 5 to 10 years, depending on how many you are inside the house, and depending on the traffic, and depending on kung gaano kagaling yung naging contractor mo. Isa pa yun.
Including the paint, 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, 5 to 10 years. I would say. But bilis-bilis ng konti ang ang wallpaper. Easier to install, mas fun, but medyo mag-peel off na, depending on kung gaano kagaling yung nag-install. Pero nag-peel na siya mga after 5 years. Ganun. Medyo you have to change it. No? Yan, ang paint, ang mas reliant on the traffic. Kasi it can go longer kung wala siyang masyadong, kung medyo maingat yung mga people inside, kung medyo...
Or hindi siya nababasa. Kasi sometimes, di ba, may gano'n, may tumutulo. Di ba?
Hindi siya nababasa. Mas matagal yun. Pwede yun tumagal. Like, how many years? It's more of mga alikabok ang magiging kalaban mo lang doon. Exterior, yun talaga. Yun yung mga mas mag-fade in time.
Ano yung mga dapat bigyang pansin ng mga nagpapagawa ng bahay? Na minsan, hindi nila alam, very important pala yun.
Okay, one of the things that sometimes people neglect is yung type of soil that you have. So that's medyo sometimes kapag medyo loose yung type of soil mo, may pwedeng mag-extra enforcement o mas malalim yung huhukayin natin na or sometimes kapag medyo mataas ka tapos medyo inclined yung place mo, kailangan ng riprapping. Yun yung mga types na hindi niya na-foresee ng tao. Siyempre gusto mo minsan overlooking ka na sa mountain, ganon. May possibility na baka if may kailangan ng riprapping around the...
What's riprapping?
It's yun yung pag sa mountains, 'di ba, pag meron silang yung mga construction ng roads sa pag mga mountainous na side. Tapos yung alam mo na dito sa yung mga side ng mountain is naka-cement siya ng parang stone on top of stone.
Oo.
Riprapping.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So that's actually just to prevent the
yung pag-erode ng soil.
Soil. So there. So kailangan minsan ng ganun. Extra enforcement. Yun. That's probably one thing, pero that's not so major, pero that's kind of an unforeseen thing. Hindi ganun kamura magpagawa ng pool. Baka akala ng tao.
Yun nga.
Number 1, mahal din siyang pagawa.
Okay.
Of course, when you're intending to have a pool made, try to dapat meron ka talagang pool specialist.
So there is a pool specialist?
Oo.
Really?
Kasi they know how to,
know that.
yung ano niya, yung filtering system, yung meron kasing tangkihan and everything. So may pool specialist. Kasi kapag tao-tao mo lang ang gagawa, may tendency siyang, it's not gonna last that long.
Tipong magbabara lagi, ganon.
Oo, madaming mga factors. So that's one thing. Bukod sa expensive, syempre, paglalagay mo pa ng lighting. So that's why there's a pool specialist. So may mga underwater light na type, na gano'n. So to prevent leakage. Tapos meron pang mga tipong type of pool na na parang made out of resin, na they're just gonna position it there and it's buo na. So that's expensive. And medyo siya, maintenance din siya.
Yes, oo.
Ma-aksaya talaga siya sa water. Baka yun na nalilimot. Din siya almost as expensive as the square meters of a house. So, mga 10 to 15 din yata. That was my last computation when I was siguro mga 5 years ago. Ang interior design cost, ito pa lang isa sa pinaka-thing na hindi nakakita ng tao. Interior design finishing can cost the same as your house.
Wow! Wow! Ang mahal nga! Oh my gosh! Wait lang. But that's just for your services. But it does not include the items na kasama.
The items naman.
May items na. Okay.
It's not for the services naman. It's it's for the actual cost of whatever it is that you're gonna buy for your interior space, the finishing, curtains, everything that you're gonna buy. So, kung yung budget mo for your house is like this, and you intend to make your interior space pretty, you can allot mga 50 to 100% of that same amount. So, plus 50% to plus 100% ulit of the house amount.
If they hire you, say, ikaw, Reg, they hire you, do they tell you, okay, ito yung gagawin natin, pwede ba yung ganang arrangement, tapos sila na yung bahalang bumili ng gamit? Or they can also have an option na, okay, we'll give you this fee, everything all in. Do you offer packages ba? Parang ganun. May packages ba ang mga interior designer?
Yeah. Meron naman kasing iba't ibang scope eh. So, pwede nga actually, there are projects that I've had that they just asked for a design, a drawing.
Yes.
So, I gave them the drawing and they paid me for just the drawing, and they, bahala na sila maghanap ng based on my specifications and based on my design. So, which is kind of more convenient for me. Of course, mas kumbaga, mas may freedom din sila if they want to change it. Of course, sayang din yung, but at least they consult naman with me every once in a while if tama yung materials nila, but I don't have to be with them. So, okay lang yun sa akin. And there are packages naman na talagang full-on na ako din yung finishing ng lahat. Accessorizing is also on me. Sometimes, even the design of the furniture, if they want to customize it, ako rin yung design ng furniture. I've done a lot of projects like that na madaming customized na furniture. And but there are also packages like that na parang i-offer nila, but this I'm gonna return to them naman with with this budget, this is what I can offer you. Yun. So there. So pwede din ganon na this is my only budget with for the house, including your fee. What can you do with it?
So it's best talaga to consult you na lang directly. Oo. Kesa mag-guess ka ng mag-guess ka.
Yeah, it's still best. Kasi with regards talaga to interior finishing, ang hirap-hirap niyang bigyan ng amount. Kasi hindi mo talaga masasabi. Sometimes matipid, no? Tapos biglang kaya pala niyang mag-splurge when it comes to their favorite part of the house, like the kitchen. So super tinipid niya lahat, mariwasa tiles, lahat. Pero pagdating sa kitchen, gusto niya customize yung kitchen.
Parang ibang lugar naman.
Oo, parang
ibang lugar na yung
Oo, kasi yun yung favorite niyang place. Kasi like, chef siya, cook siya. Yun lang talaga.
Feeling ko ganyan kami pag nagpagawa ng bahay. Kasi mahilig kami magluto eh. Like most of the time, like ako, I've been telling my friends, pag nag-usap kami anong gusto namin sa bahay. Kasi kaming mag-asawa, ayaw namin ng malaki ang living room. Kasi hindi kami ganon. Like, hindi kami ma-invite na tao. So, we want to have bigger sort of office setup, like gaming room, entertainment room, ganon. And ako, I want to have a space for where I can have a parang book, nook. Parang nook, may nook ako for reading. And at the same time, a space for yoga. Na gusto ko open space. Oo. Ganon, oo. So sa akin,
Also,
kahit sobrang liit lang ng living room, it's fine. Mas important sa akin, kitchen, ayan, where we eat. Oo. Kasi doon kami talaga nag-spend time together eh.
yeah.
Oo.
This is the misconception, I think, of a lot of people when they're having their house made. And this is feeling ko where the future of interior design is going to go. It should depend on the movement and the specific need of each
Yes.
individual user.
Mm-mm.
So, if you're not the type of person who uses a living room, then that's wasted space.
Exactly, di ba? Parang sabi ko, kailangan mo ng malaking ganyan. Sino maglilinis niyan? Ako maglilinis niyan. Ayoko.
Exactly, diba?
Ayoko.
Hindi dahil everyone's doing it, you should
Exactly.
do it also. So,
Yes.
yun yung point ng interior designer.
Mm.
To make your space you.
Yes.
Make your space support your type of lifestyle, your type of living. However, of course, if you are the type of person who wants to change your lifestyle, then maybe we could also assist you into doing that. For example, you're the type na gusto ko namang mag-invite more in the future. Alam mo yun, magkaroon ng...
Yun yung may mga panel na pwede
Yeah,
mong i-open. Oo.
Exactly. So yun, that can be that can be part of our support. The design should be supportive talaga of what you intend to have and what you intend to be and to have in your house and how you intend to live. Kasi when somebody approaches me as an interior designer, the thinking should be that this person wants something to change.
Yes.
So you support that desire to change. Hindi niya alam yon sa mind niya. Gusto niya lang na gumanda ang space niya, may mabago. But that intention, hindi niya alam yon kasi people aren't aware of themselves that much. Pero there is an inner desire for something to change. And I think that's what you need to support as an interior. Feeling ko, at least for me.
So you customize based on what they want.
Yeah, that's at least... I'm sure a lot of interior designers are also like that. You have to also read between the lines of what they need as much as possible. Yung for clients, you try to really get an interior designer that you're comfortable with.
And also, it's like you guide them. Kasi sometimes, again, going back, di ba, yung mga magazines, like, ang daming mga usong-usong ngayon, yung mga artista, pinapakita nila yung mga bahay nila. And sometimes, we all want things from different houses. When you combine all together, it's like, what the heck? Ano bang meron? Ano ba talagang theme ng natin? Bahay natin?
Akin din kasi, if ganun ka na parang you just based off your ideas from whatever you saw, then you kind of really don't know who you are yet.
Yes, I think so too.
I can't blame din naman people kasi we are living in a society where everything you see from influencers, from celebrities is what goes. Yun yung uso So, yun, makiuso tayo.
I remember yung sa mga beauty bloggers, there's this, usually, di ba, if they have a collection of makeup, meron silang certain type of, lalagyan, cabinet, na lahat halos ng beauty blogger in the US, I think, basta sa ibang bansa, they have that. And they have this silver thing, na parang silver vanity mirror, na talagang everyone has it because automatic, pag may ganun ka alam, uy, beauty blogger. Parang ganun. Associated ka na. Uy, may connection siya ng ganyan. Makeup yan. So, parang alam mo yung automatically, natatag ka na as ganong person.
Oo. So, yun nga di mo blame ang mga tao for losing identity. Alam mo yun? Siguro tip, try to find yourself and try to, alam mo yun, kasi,
Basta ako, isa lang naman ang rule ko Pagka ba 60 years old ako, madaling bang linisin yan? Kasi pag hindi yan madaling linisin, no. Kasi tatanda ka di ba? Alam ko, tapos ayoko naman magbayad ng extra help for that. Di syempre, sa akin na lang yung pambayad na yun. Something like less complicated. Basta yun lang. I mean, kidding aside, basta sa akin, gusto ko yung madaling linisin. Parang you don't have to spend a lot of time yung managing. Hindi ako masipag na tao, okay? So, that's why I know myself. Hindi ako masipag na tao. Hindi ako lagi naglilinis. So, knowing pa na pagdanda mo, may mga masasakit na sa'yo, pagising mo sa umaga. So, I know, hindi ko talaga yun yung type ng bahay ko. So, sa akin talaga, sabi ko, minimalist tayo. Minimalist. Japanese-inspired, ganyan.
Yeah.
Oo.
So, yun pa, depende pa talaga yun sa type of person that you are talaga. So, it has to, of course, the interior space has to speak of you.
Yes.
Yung
Dahil parang pag ito yung bahay mo, uy, ito talaga to. Si Roma to. Parang, si Reg to. Personality niya to.
You can copy other people's interior spaces, but then you're living somebody else's life.
True.
Diba? Kasi
That's right.
you put it inside your space, not it's somebody else's.
Ako, I always believe that a home or your house should always feel like a home where you don't have to pretend. Diba? Parang kailangan ito yung pagpasok ng paa mo, relax ka eh. Diba? You can be whatever you want. Na parang, okay, ito, I really feel at home. I really feel at ease. Pero yung ayaw mong magulo yung bahay mo. Kasi ang bahay, supposedly, nagugulo talaga yan eh. Kasi it's a good, sort of like, chaotic, hindi naman chaotic, like a good mess. Like, you know, it's bad, but it's good at the same time. Na parang, makalat. Kasi pag hindi nagugulo ang bahay, hindi, parang siguro, hindi lahat ng nakatira doon, they stay there. Kasi kaya nga hindi siya magulo kasi nasa labas lahat eh. Pero supposedly, ang bahay, may gulo yan eh. Hindi man siya laging maayos talaga. Diba?
Yeah.
So, for me, like, yung pag hindi mo na nafe-feel yung at ease ka, at home ka, that feeling of at home, I think, may kulang pag ganon. That's just me. That's just my opinion. Last question before we end the show, Reg. What can you advise to our listeners na gustong magpagawa ng bahay?
I'm gonna be speaking in not just as an interior designer. Kasi if I'm gonna be speaking as an interior designer, this isn't very supportive of our profession. Pero,
yes. Mamagalit. Baka magano na sila.
Pero I mean, not that hindi naman siya hindi supportive. Pero let's put it this way. My advice kasi is for people to not just think of creating a house that is pretty. Yun yung thing ko. So, sa akin yan, especially that, you know, the pandemic is actually showing us a lot of things that's more important than the superficiality of a lot of things. Kapag gusto mo magpagawa ng house, really know who you are, what you really want. So with regards to that, it's not just what you want, what you really want to be as a family in that home. Yun yung sa akin Kasi you have to make that house work with you towards that vision that you have. Kasi the interior space is supposed to be supporting you in that vision. That is where you're going to be spending majority of your life in. So it has to work with you towards the vision that you want. So it's not just about creating a lovely space inside. It's also about creating the life that you want. So if you want to have a home and you intend to have a change in your life, then might as well go full blown na dun sa dream mo and incorporate that. And if possible, try to look for an interior designer or an architect, whoever it is, that can see that vision with you. It can be a friend, it can be, alam mo yun, na who knows you already, who knows what you want in life. If you have an architect na friend or interior designer na friend, then that would be great. Also, you try to also respect talaga bottom line, for both sides, respect. Try to respect that may professional yung kausap mo. It's not a slave, not your slave, hindi dahil binabayaran mo sila, hawak mo sila sa leeg. Meron silang pinag-aralan. Number one, they studied years. They paid a certain significant amount of money to get to that degree. A certain level of respect to their profession. They're not your slaves. They're not sunod-sunuran sa'yo. If you know that you are in a budget, try to also consult and respectfully ask your architect what you can work within that space, and do not force your budget and the look that you want and parang papaproblemahin mo sila kung paano yun magiging posible. Kasi this is the thing, especially if design and build yung pinapagawa mo, there are going to be sacrifices that you may not like. just because you want it, you're forcing it to be like that. And the bad thing about that is yung sacrifices na yun, let's hope na hindi yun sa structural or anything that can compromise on and can sacrifice on your safety as a family. Communication lang talaga ang key. So, which brings me to my point that the person, the professional that you are going to be consulting, hindi pwera sila yung sikat, sila yung kukunin. Kumbaga,
Yes. Maraming magaling na hindi lang nabibigyan ng highlight.
And also, try to work with someone you are comfortable discussing these matters with.
Would you like to invite them to follow you, or maybe where can they find you if they want to send you a message and get your services?
All right, my website is still on the works. Pero for the meantime, I am in for Facebook na lang. Gine, Gine, then Viola Cello, VIOLACELLO, and then Instagram at rbqc.id or rbqc_id there.
Still have Reg on a separate episode on Empowered Talks naman. So once again, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for sharing your thoughts and your expertise on things about home and interior designing. So we really value your everything that you've shared to us, and I hope na marami silang natutunan today, kasi marami ako natutunan, and I really had fun having this conversation.
I'm glad.
And please don't forget to subscribe to my podcast. You can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm on Facebook and YouTube. Just search at the ROMA MICLAT Podcast. Until our next episode, bye!